Welcome, brothers and sisters of the Secular Order of Discalced Carmelites, and to those others who are interested in the Secular Order of the Discalced Carmelites, whether they be friars or nuns or other persons, members of the church. I've been talking about and explaining some of the points that I make in a little book that I wrote 12 years ago called Welcome to the Secular Order of the Discalced Carmelites. On page 9 of that book, I gave a definition, a description of what I say is a secular order member. First thing, secular order member is a practicing Catholic. Number 2, under the protection of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and influenced by St. Teresa of Jesus and St. John of the Cross or St. John of the Cross, makes a commitment to the order to seek the face of God for the sake of the world, church, and of the world. We're talking about the fifth element, to seek the face of God. I told you where I got this inspiration for myself about what meditation is. So it's Psalm 27. I think it's verse 9, I'm not sure but exactly, but it's on Wednesday afternoon in the first week Psalter. Wednesday afternoon, the second psalm begins, O Lord, hear my voice when I call. Have mercy and hear me. Of you my heart has spoken. Seek his face. It is your face, O Lord, that I seek. Hide not your face. This to me describes what the inspiration is that has guided us to want to be Carmelites, to seek the face of God. Of you, O Lord, I hear my voice when I call. Have mercy and hear me. Of you, my heart has spoken. Seek his face. My heart has spoken. Seek his face. I have a desire to see God. Now, this brings up a very important point, and some few clarifications have to be made about the point that this brings up. There are unfortunately some priests, even Carmelite priests, who don't very much believe in the value of the secular order. They think, well, they think that secular order members are trying to be imitation nuns or imitation friars. I have rarely, if ever, I can't think, met a secular order member who was confused about being a lay person and not a religious, who was confused about their identity as lay people. The majority of the people are married or have children and grandchildren or grandchildren. The members of the secular order never want a prayer life, but there's some clericalists, not clerics, clericalists in the world who think the spiritual life is for the professionals, the religious. The lay people, they're not obligated to a spiritual life. I told you in one of the earlier videos about a provincial who told me when I came to make a visitation of the secular order in his province, he told me not to bother his people with St. Teresa and St. John of the Cross, but to leave them with the rosary and the scapular. To seek the face of God. Vocation to the secular order, vocation to Carmel, period, is to seek the face of God. Hide not your face. One of the things that the commitment to the order provides is a structure for a prayer life. Prayer life needs structure. Now, I live in a monastery. The nuns live in monasteries. It's very easy for us to have a structured prayer life. The bell rings, and it's time to go to pray. The bell rings, it's time to make meditation. The bell rings, it's time for the rosary, or whatever it is. We live in a structure that provides that. Secular order members are also provided in their constitutions with a structure for living a life of prayer in the world. Now, before we begin, I want to say, just for clarity's sake, none of the obligations for the secular order member apply under the penalty of sin. It's not a sin not to do what secular order. The obligation to pray is an obligation that's serious and a matter for confession if we do not pray. But saying these specific prayers or doing this specific period of meditation is not under the obligation of sin. All of us, whether we're in the monastery or in the world, in seculum, in the world. Secular comes from seculum. My spirituality is lived in the monastery, in conventual life, community life. Your community is formed among yourselves for the sake of supporting each other in your life of prayer, but it's lived in the world. Now, the structure is provided by the constitutions of the secular order. The structure is meditation, 30 minutes a day, recommended. And as I've said before, you can make 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes someplace else. So the first thing is that we'll talk about these when we talk about this famous 6 M's. But the first thing is you're provided with the support to make meditation. The second thing is the ibadah, pardon me, that's Bahasa Indonesia word, the liturgy of the hours, morning prayer and evening prayer. And the third thing is the recommendation through some acts of devotion to St. Teresa, St. John, of course, St. Joseph. That's most recently added to the constitutions. You have a right, you have an obligation to a prayer life, a life of prayer, a life that's structured where prayer is what keeps you focused for everything else that you have to do during the day. But because you do not live in monasteries, each one of you has to have his or her own schedule of when it is most convenient for you, because you have other obligations. We have the obligation, we religious, the priests and the nuns, the fathers and friars and the nuns, we have an obligation to 2 hours of mental prayer. Why do we get 2 hours? Are we so holy? Well, no, we don't have families. We don't have children. We don't have to get meals ready. We don't have to worry about work or being at work on time and doing a good day's work so that we don't get fired. We don't have those obligations. You have other obligations, so that your prayer life has to fit in to the other obligations you have because of your vocation in life, your primary vocation. Your primary vocation is to be a lay person in the church, married or unmarried, widowed, single, whatever your circumstances are. Your prayer life fits into that context. There are there's 2 major categories of prayer that you read about when you read about from St. Teresa or St. John, of course. Vocal prayer and mental prayer. Saying certain prayers, vocally, and meditating. Now, under vocal prayer, there's two separations also. I would say 2 distinctions. There's one type of vocal prayer is vocal prayer that's devotional prayer, the Rosary, the Stations of the Cross, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, whatever private devotion that you might have that really is a meaningful way for you to express your love. Devotion has to do with being devoted to. You're devoted to Jesus. You're devoted to Mary. Devoted to Joseph. We're devoted to saints. We're devoted to God, of course, but primarily the one type of prayer is devotional prayer. The other type of vocal prayer is liturgical, but liturgical prayer also goes into the realm of meditation. Of course, liturgy is, as the Second Vatican Council says, the sum and source of all holiness in the Church. It's the sum and source of our worship. Sum and source. With the presence of Jesus, the Blessed Sacrament, the presence of Jesus forgiving sin, baptizing, the sacramental life of the Church. That crosses the bridge between vocal and mental. Then there's a type of prayer that is purely mental, meditation. That's the type of prayer that many people don't know they are capable of. There are many people with many devotions. And there are many people who go to Mass every day who are not Carmelites. But one of the things that we're called to do is to meditate. This might be a little bit longer today because it's too important to just leave in the air. Again, I want to repeat that your obligation to a prayer life fits into the context of your vocation. As my obligation fits into the context of my vocation. My vocation is to be a friar. The nuns have a vocation to be nuns. Priests have a vocation to be priests. Religious have a vocation to be religious. And so there's a lot more ability, a lot more able to be expected of a religious. But you as lay people, your primary obligation is to the sacrament of marriage if you're married. The obligations of sacrament of marriage come in the form of obligations of family life. That's first. You become holy because of that. OCDS supports that. OCDS makes that holy. But the time that you require or ask for in prayer does not take away from the time you're required to be with your family, or to go to work, or to do a day's work. You know. So you have a prayer life that's asked of you in the constitutions. 30 minutes of meditation, morning prayer, evening prayer, and night prayer if you can, and Mass every day, if possible. If not possible, it's not possible. If any of these things are not possible, it's not possible. So we look for ways to make these things possible. We'll continue this discussion about the life of prayer of the OCDS member in the next video. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, then the little bell that alerts you to the new videos coming out. Look for the old videos if you have never seen one before this one. This is video number 12. And hit the like button if you find this helpful. God bless you.